The US Treasury dropped an absolute bombshell about Bitcoin in their latest 26-page report. The timing of this report is also very, very interesting. Why is the US Treasury releasing this report now? And why was it published over the weekend? Well, we're going to get into the timing a little bit later, but first, let's dive into this report and see what the US Treasury is saying about Bitcoin. Well, as I stated, 26 pages, so a full deep dive, but looking at a little bit of blockchain, kind of the initial growth aspects of learning the initial steps about Bitcoin. But the major thing that I want to highlight here comes on the second page as soon as you get into the content of the report, that the primary use case for Bitcoin seems to be the store of value, aka digital gold in a decentralized finance world. So I think that this is extremely, extremely bullish for Bitcoin to show that, you guys can see here that the, decentralized financial world, digital gold, but also this aspect here where Bitcoin, it's tracking the overall growth and the total use in stable coins. And we've got Austin here in the chat early on. So what's up, Austin? Welcome. Yeah, thank you so much for joining. And look at this graph. It is super interesting. Why are they concerned with the growth of stable coins? With everything related to Tether and how those are growing. It's looking at the total crypto market cap as well as the Bitcoin market cap. But look at how much this Bitcoin market cap just continues to 10x year over year, but also the massive growth of stablecoin market cap. Now, why would they be concerned with that? Well, this stablecoin market cap keeps growing because they keep buying up US Treasuries. So they see the stablecoin market cap just keeps increasing because the US Treasuries and the amount that Tether is purchasing every single year just increases. So the US is realizing that Tether is very intertwined with US Treasuries. So we can't allow Tether to fail, or else US Treasury bills, the US Treasury would be something that would be pretty devastating for the overall global economy. Now, why is that important? Well, this year we saw Japan for the first time ever sell US Treasury bills, and then they rose interest rates. What happened? I don't know if you guys remember it happened. It's not too long ago. It was in August of this year where we see the famous Japanese yen carry trade occur, where people were trying to, sell off yen and purchase the dollar at a premium and kind of get in that spread area. And they were making a big killing on it. Then when Japan raised their interest rates, it crashed the market. It was the third biggest crash that we've seen in our lifetime. It was 2008. It was 2020 COVID, and the Japanese raising interest rates by simply 25 basis points. So because of the volatility of everything going on, this is very important to keep track of and kind of continue to track. And if Tether, for some reason, decided to get angry with the US and sell off, US bonds and treasury bills, that would not be very beneficial for the US government going forward. And Austin, thank you so much, man, for sending this super chat for the news update. Really appreciate you coming in and tuning in, man. It's always a pleasure to see you in the chat. So thank you so much for the super chat. And, what everybody else is taking away from this is that, the US Treasury acknowledging Bitcoin as digital gold is monumental, because it looks like that is going to be the primary function, at least, currently, to what everybody is viewing the US dollar now as the true medium of exchange. Maybe we'll get to that Bitcoin medium of exchange, but for now in the United States, let's be honest here, the dollar system works enough where having something backed as having something where Bitcoin is backing the dollar, maybe on a treasury or something along those lines, would be beneficial. But initially, they're taking step one, which is acknowledging it as digital gold. So but not everybody is a fan of this idea. Now, it is interesting. Jerome Powell was on plenty of interviews here fairly recently, looking at why what discussing Bitcoin and talking about the US Treasury potentially creating a strategic reserve. But, a former US Treasury Secretary calls this a quote, crazy idea. Larry Summers even came out that, he says he understands other commodity reserves, but calls Bitcoin a sterile inventory. So he becomes a huge hater of this Bitcoin strategic reserve. And of all prices to support, why would the government choose to support an accumulating sterile inventory, a bunch of Bitcoin? There is no reason other than to pander to a generous special interest campaign contributors. So clearly, Larry Summers has no idea about Bitcoin and the true power of the fixed supply and the digital scarcity aspect. He just doesn't even understand it. I mean, you can just take it directly from that quote there, where he just says it's all just pandering. He thinks that the reason that this strategic reserve is occurring in multiple states and in the US overall is simply just a pander for votes. I think that's extremely downplaying the power of what is going on here, and the true transformation that we've seen in the US Treasury. So, people all over the globe are highlighting this. They're highlighting that, they're calling Bitcoin digital gold. And, that is a huge part in this report. Now, the timing of this is something that I want to get into with you guys. Why are they doing this right now? Right? We all know the price action, and we'll talk about the true actual value. Actually, I can pull it up here. I have it right here. So we're creeping right above 100K at this current time of this recording, but we're floating around that 100K mark. So was this 100K and price explosion that we saw in the month of November a big reason why Bitcoin is now called digital gold? Did that 100K mark, did that mental barrier of 100K really start to bring into the Wall Street FOMO and now the nation state FOMO? It appears so, right? Because it says, Wall Street, they're claiming that it's just Wall Street who's facing this FOMO here in this article. But it seems to now have doubled after Trump has gotten in there. We've got Elon calling for a debt spiral that we've all been talking to multiple times on various platforms here, either the live streams or interviews or other things like that. So, I think with all that, it's really interesting that they're highlighting it. And it seems like the primary use case for Bitcoin would be the digital gold only in the decentralized finance type of world. So, I think like every news article is picking up that, the US Treasury is calling Bitcoin digital gold. But how unique is this? And why did they drop it over the weekend? Well, I'll tell you a little bit as to why I believe that they dropped it over the weekend. It's, previously they dropped a major report basically hating on Bitcoin. That crypto assets, look at this, crypto assets, the implications for consumers, investors, and businesses. And it was in September 2022. This entire report was overviewed. Basically, this 58 report, I'm not going to get into the huge aspects of it, but they've been following this thing for a couple years. But the risks and everything that really dove into this was more so on the using digital assets to evade sanctions. Now, they're also on top of taking a dive into what Bitcoin and the power of being a U.S. strategic reserve can be. They're also exploring the potential of utilizing Bitcoin to evade sanctions, to have more control, to monitor exactly what people are doing around the globe, international trade, all that. I actually did a live stream on this on Russia, potentially using Bitcoin to avoid sanctions the other day as well. So, and they've come out and openly said this. Russia's come out and openly said that they're utilizing Bitcoin and they're looking at other cryptos in order to evade that. Now, I think it's interesting because Bitcoin's a public ledger. So if you know those addresses or know where these things are coming, like, if international trade is reported and say for $1 million, and then all of a sudden you see $1 million move on chain, what are you doing here? You know that this is Russia's wallet, even if they can't dox it. I mean, there's a lot of chain analytics that go on now. So I'd be surprised to see, Russia and some of these other people who are attempting to, conduct international trade to get around sanctions, to be doing this on Bitcoin because of just the nature of it. But hey, what can you do, right? I mean, that they're just going to use everything they can to attack Bitcoin, including marketing it as utilizing it for evading sanctions. But on the other side of things, the US confirming that Bitcoin's role is digital gold, I think, is absolutely huge and cannot be understated here, right? So its latest report emphasizing its role as a store of value. It highlights the significance of stablecoins, which drive the demand for US Treasury bills in digital markets. And traditional financial instruments like the US governmental bonds still dominate the overall market size despite crypto's growth. So, to kind of go over this is kind of what they're talking about here, right? Like the corporate bond market and everything else. What Tether is using to back here in Q2, majority portion of it is US Treasury bills, right? So majority, and that's in their cash equivalents market. 68% of their entire holdings is in US Treasury bills, which I think is very interesting here. And let me zoom in for this for you guys so you guys can see it a little bit better. But yeah, so they break down all of Tether's full on percentages here, so that US Treasury bills being extremely high is super interesting when it comes to everything that involves with Tether and the United States government, how those two entities are very, very intertwined here. And it is interesting that they're looking to kind of paint this picture that Bitcoin can be used for money laundering and evading sanctions and whatnot too. But it does seem like the U.S. and the U.S. Treasury is looking to understand and learn more about Bitcoin and what is going on here. So, the Treasury convenes cryptocurrencies working sessions with industry leaders. That was in March 2nd of 2020. So, the US Treasury has been trying to learn about Bitcoin and the quote unquote digital asset market now for over 4 years, 4.5 years. And they still have just come to the conclusion that Bitcoin is digital gold. Not where the white paper says it's peer-to-peer electronic cash, not where the white paper says, this is the purest form of money. They just have it as a store of value currently. And so I think that that's going to evolve and change, especially as we see this price start to rip and run. We highlighted it a bit earlier, but we're still floating around this 100K mark. And kind of crab walk in here. We got to 102 earlier today, but crab walk in here during this December time and not really doing a huge run up. But in order to use the true power of Bitcoin, the true way to store your wealth and to keep everything that you do, every single second that you work, keep all of that secure, I recommend utilizing cold storage, which can help highlight the true power of Bitcoin. Now, I think the best way to do that is to store your Bitcoin on a stamp seed punch plate. They are the number one punch plate in the entire game. You can go, they've got this cool revolutionary hammer, which makes it easier for you to stamp your seed into these seed phrases or into their punch plates and continue to go from there. And you can use promo code Green Candle to get 15% off your entire order and get all that as they're going through here. Get it for the holidays. There's only 210 of these 100K milestone plates. Get it as we're floating here through 100K. Help out or support the causes, and don't store your seed phrase on a piece of paper. It's cold, it's rainy, it's snowing in some places up in the north. What would happen if you lost your seed phrase and it got wet, right? You would be losing out on generational wealth. So utilizing a stamp seed punch plate would be the best way to store your seed phrase. And If that is something that is a little nerve wracking for you, I got the boys to help you out at Bitcoin Way. You can go to thebitcoinway.com/green candle, and they've got a full on calendar being set up. They've even been working on Christmas Day if you want to help you or your family. Look at that. They've got everything open. The only day they're closing is on Christmas Eve. So they've got the entire month open with times around the clock. They've got people all over the globe working to help you get your Bitcoin off an exchange and make you feel confident in the way that you are storing your Bitcoin. You could either utilize, cold storage. They will help you get your Bitcoin off of an exchange. They will help you make sure that your Bitcoin is safe from any potential cyber attacks. And if you're looking for a plan B passport, they can also help you with that. So set up a free 30-minute consultation, thebitcoinway.com, and utilize thebitcoinway.com/green candle. And then you can utilize that 30-minute free consultation. But remember, as we're going through all of this, ladies and gents, the US Treasury is now not only writing multiple reports about Bitcoin, but they're calling Bitcoin digital gold. This is absolutely monumental here. Primary use case for Bitcoin seems to be the store of value, aka digital gold in a decentralized finance world. This cannot be understated. They're seeing this shortly after the 100K mark, releasing it quietly over the weekend in December in a very slow month where we're coming into the holiday season and they're not necessarily out here promoting and touting it, right? They're doing it in a quiet time and trying to make it fly under the radar. And that's because I think they're slowly realizing for the past 4 years when they've been doing this research that they've been wrong. They've been very slowly moving. And I'm extremely bullish for what is going forward. So thank you guys all for joining. If it's your first time here, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, tell a friend to tell a friend, and I will see you guys all at the next one. Thank you so much for tuning in.